Krishna. There should be more coming soon. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare Kopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare Kopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Kunjabihari Jaya Mission Paramahamsa Parivajapacharya Shri Srimad AC Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. Science of God, Chapter 9, Prahlad pacifies the Lord with prayers, text 40. Please repeat after me. Jivai Kato, Juta, Vikarshati, Mavitripta, Shishno, Anyatas, Twag, Udaram, Shavanam, Kutaschit, Grano, Nyatatash, Chapala, Drik, Kwa, Cha, Karma Shaktir, Bhavyaha, Sapatnya, Eva, Geha, Patim, Lunanti, what's the Jivai Kato Chuta Vikarshati Mavitripta Shishnon Yatas Twag Udaram Shavanam Kutaschit Granon Natash Chapaladrik Kwacha Karma Shaktir Bhavya sapatna eva geha patim lunanti. Jivai katochuta vikarshati mavitripta. Shishnun yatastak udaram shavanam kutaschit. Granun yatascha padadrik karma shaktir. Bhavya sapatna evage hapatim lunanti. Jivai katochu vikash. Excuse me. Jivai katochu vikarshati mavitripta. Shishnam yatashta udaram shavanam kutaschit. Granun yatascha padadrikvat chakarma shaktir. Bhavya sapatna eva ge hapatim lunanti.
Shishnon yatas pagudaram shavanam kutaschit. Granon yatas chapadrik patakarma shakti. Bhamyak sapatna evage hapatim lunanti.
Jivai kato chapatadika shachimaditrita.
Jivai kato chapatadika
Shishnam yatastva kudaram shravanam kutaschit.
Shishnam yatastva kudaram shravanam kutaschit.
Granon yatascha paladikva chakarma shakti.
Granon yatascha paladikva chakarma shakti.
Bhavya sampatnya ivage
Jivyasha chusit vishishat margut parityat. Shino yatas bhagavat udayam savanam kusatsa sityam. Karnon yatas kapikat tikikar karmat sityam. Bhavyas satyam yat eva gayam patihana nityam.
Word by word. Jiva, the tongue. Ekataha, to one side. Achuta, O my infallible Lord. Vikarshati, the tracks. Ma, me. Avitripta, not being satisfied. Shishnaha, the genitals. Anyataha, to another side. Twak, the skin, for touching a soft thing. Udaram, the belly, for various types of food. Shravanam, the ear, for hearing some sweet music. Kutaschit, to some other side. Grananaha, the nose, for smelling. Anyataha, to still another side. Chapaladrik, the restless eyesight. Kvacha, somewhere. Karma shaktihi, the active senses. Bhavyaha, many. Sapatnyaha, co-wives. Eva, like. Gehapatim, a householder. Lunanti, annihilate. Translation. Commentary by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear Lord, O infallible one, my position is like that of a person who has many wives, all trying to attract him in their own way. For example, the tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, the genitals to sex with an attractive woman, and the sense of touch to contact with soft things. The belly, although filled, still wants to eat more, and the ear, not attempting to hear about you, is generally attracted to cinema songs. The sense of smell is attracted to yet another side. The restless eyes are attracted to scenes of sense gratification, and the active senses are attracted elsewhere. In this way, I am certainly embarrassed. Purport. The human form of life is meant for God realization, but this process, which begins with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, hearing and chanting about the holy name of the Lord, is disturbed as long as our senses are materially attracted. Therefore, devotional service means purifying the senses. In the conditioned state, our senses are covered by material sense gratification, and as long as one is not trained in purifying the senses, one cannot become a devotee. In our Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, we advise from the very beginning that one restrict the activities of the senses, especially the tongue, which is described by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as most greedy and unconquerable. To stop this attraction of the tongue, one is authoritatively advised not to accept meat or similar uneatable things, nor to allow the tongue to hanker to drink or smoke. Even the drinking of tea and coffee is not permitted. Similarly, the genitals must be restricted from illicit sex. Without such restraint of the senses, one cannot make advancement in Krishna consciousness. The only method of controlling the senses is to chant and hear the holy name of the Lord. Otherwise, one will always be disturbed, as a householder with more than one wife would be disturbed by them for sense gratification. Amagyanatipidandasya gananjana shalakaya chikshulan madhitamena tasmai shri gurave namaha mukam garitavachalam bhangam langayate gidim yakripatamaham vande shri gurundinitaranam vancha kapadribhishcha kripa sindhubhe vicha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. My dear Lord, O infallible one, my position is like that of a person who has many wives, all trying to attract him in their own way. For example, the tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, the genitals to sex with an attractive woman, and the sense of touch to contact with soft things. The belly, although filled, still wants to eat more, and the ear, not attempting to hear about you, is generally attracted to cinema songs. The sense of smell is attracted to yet another side. The restless eyes are attracted to scenes of sense gratification, and the active senses are attracted elsewhere. In this way, I am certainly embarrassed. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suradim sarvabhutanam gyatramam shantam richati. So Srila Prabhupada coined this as the peace formula, that if one wants to have peace, they have to accept and realize that Krishna is Bhaktaram Yagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridim Sarvabhutanam, that he is the friend of all living entities. He's the supreme friend, he's the supreme proprietor, and the supreme enjoyer of all. So we see that people don't understand that. People don't accept that. People don't understand that. And instead of Krishna being the supreme friend or the supreme enjoyer or the supreme proprietor, they see themselves or they tried to accept that position to greater or lesser degrees. And we could see that's why so many people are disturbed, or that's why the world is in a disturbed condition, not in a peaceful condition, because they're not following this peace formula as Srila Prabhupada gave it, or as he explained it to be. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, we come to ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement, this is one of the first things that we hear, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that you are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that you are His servant, you are a spirit soul. So we hear this practically on the first day. It's brought up practically in every lecture, every talk, every book, that you are a spirit soul and you're a servant of Krishna, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one thing is to understand that in a theoretical sense, or to accept that in the theoretical sense, that yeah, that sounds good, that makes sense. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I'm a servant, I'm a spirit soul. But another thing is to accept that and realize that and act on that. Act on that knowledge. To act as a servant, to be in the mood of a servant of Krishna. And this is the general challenge of people who become, or who try to become devotees, or who, this is our challenge, that the challenge to be a servant, or the versus the temptation of being a master in the material world, or a false master in the material world. And if we analyze most of the issues that come up in people's minds in relation to, we could say, experiencing challenges in Krishna consciousness, it is that this problem, it's a tug of war. What is the tug of war? The tug of war is, Maya is saying, come enjoy. And what does that mean practically? It means just forget about Krishna being the Supreme, and you accept that. You enjoy. It's all meant for you. Whatever it may be. Just look out into the world. It's all meant for you. It's not meant for Krishna. So that's the struggle. And if we analyze that in relation to chanting Hare Krishna, just like you may be chanting japa, and there may be thoughts that disturb, or there may be thoughts that disturb our mind. And what are those thoughts? If you analyze them, they fall into those categories. Okay, what can I enjoy, or what have I enjoyed in the past, or what do I want to enjoy? Or what have I owned in the past? What do I want to own in the future? There's these thoughts of enjoying or being attracted to sense gratification. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would say, if these thoughts are disturbing one, they should just keep on chanting. And that's a challenge in part because, saying here, the only method of controlling the senses is to chant and hear the holy name of the Lord. Otherwise, one will always be disturbed. So the method is to chant and hear. That's the method, or else one will always be disturbed. But then the question is, well, what if you're disturbed when you're hearing and chanting?
Continue.
Yeah, you continue chanting. Because if you give up, then you're finished. You've lost the battle. There's no question of winning. But if we're disturbed while chanting, we have to keep on chanting, and then eventually those disturbances will quiet down, and eventually the disturbance will go away. But many times people, they don't get past that point. They just try to chant, and then they're disturbed, and they say, okay, let me just give up. Or as we say sometimes, join the Kali Yuga circus out there. So Prahlad Maharaj in this verse is his prayer to Lord Nrsimhadev, a number of prayers he's offering. He's explaining his position, and he's taken the role of a conditioned soul. And he gives the example that my position is like that of a person with many wives. Now, of course, traditionally speaking, or say historically speaking, that was more of a common thing, that a man would have more than one wife. And why is that? What do you think, Avril? Huh? What do you mean, sense enjoyment? That may be the case. So Avril is saying that there's historically men have had more than one wife because they want to enjoy more than one wife. That could be the case. Any other reasons? Historically, it was more common for men to have more than one wife. So why is that?
There's no one that's qualified.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, in some cases, men go to war, men die, family stay alone. So the woman has to marry other men so the man can take care of the woman and the children.
Okay.
Like, I wouldn't say like satisfaction of the senses is always that. Not all the women are actually very attractive, honestly, can be repulsive. So, but I can see sometimes like guys have to take over like a family just to take care of them.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yes.
One answer is that what Prabhu said, I heard this on tape, that population of women is always greater. Since all women have to be protected, this the fact that they have more than one.
Population of the women is greater, and therefore the principle of women having the principle is that women have to be protected, so therefore a man would accept more than one wife.
That's not always the case.
Yeah.
I mean, just I mean, I don't know how always that way, because it's thought to have, like in a place like China and India, to have a male child better than having a female child. And so with the advent of the, what do they call it, sonic, you can see in the womb, so they'll abort the girl children.
Yeah.
Or they'll even kill them after they come out.
Yeah, now in India they don't allow, as far as I understand, they don't allow the mother to know whether it's a male or female, because there were so many cases of them understanding it was a female and them performing abortion. So now they don't let them know. Interesting law. So, anyways, but it was historically more common. I think in most places in the world now it's outlawed. But Prahlad Maharaj has given the example that just as a man who has many wives, and they're all trying to attract him in their own way. So then he says that, okay, the tongue, he lists all the senses and how the senses are attracted in different ways to the objects of the senses. Sense gratification. And we could see how this is the main distraction in this world. There's sense gratification, there's the world of the senses, and then there is we could say there's God, or there's the path of God realization. Now, of course, when we talk about going down the path of God realization, we are in to engage in our senses. It's not that we are, what's the word? Not that we are, does anybody know the word? Repressing or neglecting to engage our senses. We are engaged in our senses. We're engaged in our eyes and seeing the forms of the deities. We're engaging our tongue in tasting food offered to Krishna and glorifying Krishna. We're engaged in our legs and coming to the temple, our ears and hearing the Hare Krishna mantra and other sounds. So we're engaged in our senses. But still, even though we're engaged in our senses, that attraction to sense gratification may still be there. What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita about that? Vishya nivartante nirahasya dehana rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva navartate, that our senses may be restricted from the objects of the senses, but one is considered steady, at least to some degree, but by having a higher taste, they're able to.
Yeah, you can restrict artificially, but the taste remains.
Yeah, the taste remains. By artificially by artificially trying to control the senses, that doesn't work. Just like you have that Palgu Vairagya, which is there's a river, and apparently the example comes because the river dries up in a certain season, but if you just press down a little further, just dig a little deeper, then there's water there. So someone may look very detached or very controlled, specifically the Mayavadis, the impersonalists. But if you just go a little deep within their heart, there's material desires there. So our method is to engage our senses in Krishna's service, and in this way we control our senses. And the principle of control, the principle of self-control, is very important. As Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, that without restraint of the senses, without controlling the senses, one cannot make advancement in Krishna consciousness. So it's a great need to understand the importance of controlling our senses and to control our senses by engaging them in Krishna's service. And once we learn how to control our senses, we become Goswamis, control of our senses. Then there's question of becoming a pure devotee of Krishna. First we have to control our senses, engage them in Krishna service, and we become a pure devotee. All right, does anybody have any question or comment? Yes.
I notice an emphasis in chant the name of Hare Krishna when we are not in touch maybe with the good vibes. And then you guys mentioned also, like, oh, what if you are chanting and you're still not feeling great? Continue chanting. Are there other ways? For instance, service, maybe reading books, studying, having a conversation with another monk, other alternatives than just like, oh, when you feel off chanting, continue chanting. Why not try maybe talk to someone else or service or read?
Well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he recommends to chant as 24 hours a day, all the time, as a recommended process. Simultaneously, I mean, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's guru, he recommended his disciples to chant 64 rounds a day, which takes around 8 hours. But even if devotees didn't do so many rounds, didn't chant so many rounds, he considered them engaging in deity worship on the altar or talking with people about Krishna consciousness, trying to spread Krishna consciousness. He considered that equal to chanting. In other words, that was acceptable.
Wow.
So, but the principle is to be engaged, and if we can't chant, sit there with our beads and chant all day long, which most people cannot do, then there's so many other activities we could do. And if we're reading and we say, okay, well, I think I've read enough, then we could go clean. Okay, I think I've cleaned enough. Okay, then we could go on the altar. Okay, then there's so many things we could do. So, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yes, Virachandra?
Thank you for the class. I have a question about this, how to say, in the beginning of our practice we try to control our senses, but it's very difficult, and what we should do in the beginning, that that this high test, not cheap price to attain, and this is like ultimate goal of our practice, like sadhana bhakti, and to become, to start Raganuga bhakti. And so, what are the ways on this way in the beginning? How to practice, how to attain this high test?
In the Bhagavatam, the first canto, chapter 2, text 16, Shushu Sho Sharadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Sanmahat Seva Vipra Punyatirtana Shevana. So it's explained that by serving great souls who are completely free from vice, great service is done, and one gains a taste for the messages of Vasudeva Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explains in that purport that if we serve someone who has particular qualities, we get those qualities. So if you serve somebody who's full of lust and greed and anger, that's just kind of. But if you serve somebody who's a devotee, and one of the main qualities of devotees is they have a taste for Krishna consciousness. So if you serve a devotee, or if you serve devotees, then we will develop those qualities, that quality of taste. And in our case, we could serve our spiritual master, we could serve the devotees in general, but we should also see our services as services to Srila Prabhupada, and that who has more taste than Srila Prabhupada. So, and if we think about engaging in the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness, and that can mean many things, but then by serving Srila Prabhupada, by serving his movement, then we will develop that taste. And yeah, it's not cheap and it's not easy. We may try to encourage people and say, yes, it's very easy and you could do it and everything, but there are challenges, but if one's careful and they stay in very careful, very close association of good devotees, and if they're sincere, then they'll be protected. They have to be sincere.
just had a comment on this I guess topic of polygamy, or how
Don't think about it, Saksha.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's already disturbing.
You're brahmacharya, Prabhu.
No, but the way he
I'm
kind of
just joking.
he wrote a letter to Satarush Das Goswami about how this should be avoided at all costs, because our devotees, like, legally it just won't look right, and like socially it just won't be acceptable, and it would just cause chaos. It's kind of nice. That's kind of nice to see how he's saying avoid this at all costs, and he's like pushing that again.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So there might be some cases where, like in other temples I have seen, like sometimes there are some senior devotees where like you have to serve them, but you know that they have probably some lusty desires or some other desires. So
How do you know?
like you can notice them over the period of time, like okay, they are doing this thing. So, but in the same way, they are like senior to us in the terms of age, and you have got to serve them in some way. So, what should be done in this case?
All right. I mean, in the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's verses there that describe that even if one's on the level of bhava, there's still some, their heart is not completely pure. There may be some faults there. And the example is given of a moon. So the moon's shining in the sky, and then there's some, what do you call those? Spots. Yeah, spots. That's what people call them, spots, which are considered to be like faults, right? But still the moon's giving off illumination. So what to speak of somebody who's not on that level of bhava? There's faults. So to find somebody free of fault, that's not easy. It's Kali Yuga. And so you may be here or there or other places, and there may be people with faults, and you may notice them. Now, of course, are they really faults, or are they just imagined in our mind? Sometimes they're imagined. I mean, I've seen plenty of people imagine plenty of things that I know for a fact were completely imagined. So that's another thing. We may just be imagining things. It's very common. People imagine things. Or we may just be under some impression. It may just be like a rumor. It just may be, wrong. But if there are actually faults within senior persons, and what should we do? Oh, we should serve everybody, and everybody should be served in a particular way. And sometimes what you learn from somebody, and we should actually see people as our teachers, what you can learn from somebody is what not to do. This is what I shouldn't do, because I see how it's caused him problems, and I see how it's caused other people problems. I shouldn't do this. And this way we learn. But in terms of closely serving or learning from, we should find people who we have faith in, who are more or less and more than less free from faults, free from, they're not processing. They're not in the they need to have processed things, not that they're being bogged down by so many things in the material world. In other words, they need to process their anartas, get free of certain things. We should find people like that and closely serve them. We may serve others, but in terms of like closely serving someone and really learning the science of Krishna consciousness, and we should try to find someone advanced or more advanced. Any other? What do you have to say, what do you have to say for yourself, young man? No, you just got here. Any online question, comment? All right, so tomorrow's text is text 41, and Dvijamani Prabhu will be giving the class tomorrow. So, all right, Uncontrolled Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.